Welcome to the NAMB podcast, where we bring you the voices that drive the mortgage industry. Join dynamic hosts Ginger Bell and Matt Shields as they dive into bold conversations with top experts, industry leaders, and change makers from across the country. From insider insights to game-changing trends, this is your front row seat to what's happening right now in the world of home finance.
Sorry, you said that. I was going to say, you got to introduce yourself.
Gotcha.
Okay, go.
Awesome. Hey everyone, I'm Matt Shields and we're back with the NAMB podcast. We have two amazing guests with us. We have Lauren Patterson and we have Michael Farrell. And we've been doing so much with NAMB and we've been doing so much with the government affairs. Lauren, I want to ask you a question. With the trigger leads bill that's been going on, tell us about what we've been doing as NAMB to get to the point we're at now with having the trigger leads bill approved.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Matt. Hey, it's great to be on here. Thank you, Matt, for having us. The trigger leads bill that we got passed this year, we actually started working on that in DC 7 years ago. So it was a long road. We put a lot of time in, a lot of air miles, a lot of shoe leather on Capitol Hill.
That's right.
A lot of handshakes as well. And it was something that we were glad to see happen. From the GA side of the world for NAMB this year, we were busy. We did a lot this year. And our agenda for next year is it's not any lighter.
Right.
This year we passed the trigger leads bill, okay, which was the one that we really had been working on. But we also passed the landmark VA Home Loan Reform Act as well. And then we also introduced proposed legislation on the VA Home Loan Modernization Act, and then also on the Gold Star spouses as well.
So busy.
Just from the legislative side, right? That was just the legislative side. Those were 4 key elements that we introduced and/or got passed this year. And then we can talk some more about, there were letters that we wrote as well. And then there were some 15, 20 different meetings that we had this year, separate meetings on the Hill with our legislators, senators, congressmen, and different department heads and committee chairs as well.
You've been busy. There's been with what you just said, we've had a lot going on. Tell me about that process from the letters to getting the bills in play to the meetings. How does that process look like for what we did to start with the idea to get to where we're at now?
So the way that it flows within NAMB is the GA committee will meet and we'll come up with some ideas and things that we want to advance that year. And then we'll take that to the board and the executive committee, and then they'll talk about it, and then we'll whittle that list down, because it starts out, it's like a funnel, right? We say, here's what we think we should work on, here's things that are important to the industry, and here's things that are important to our membership, and here's things that are important to homeowners as well. And then we'll look at those, and also with the work and help of our lobbyists in DC as well, who have their thumb on the pulse with what's going on, we're able to say, okay, here's the things that there's an appetite for. So there's some things that we also do to kind of take the temperature, if you will, right? Because you want to be putting your resources and your efforts in the places that really need it, but that also have a higher likelihood of success. But then you look at the trigger leads bill, and that's something that we literally introduced 7 years ago, was when we first started working on that. Yeah.
Wow. So. A lot of time, a lot of effort in 7 years to get to the point we're at now, and it paid off.
It paid off, and we came close a couple times. And in the legislative session that happened before this year, it made it through the Senate, and it was just waiting on the House to pass.
Right.
But then when that wound down, it didn't pass there, so then we picked it up again. And if you go back before that, when it was first introduced, we had Congressman Lacey Clay from Missouri who introduced it. But then when he wasn't reelected back into office, it went by the sidelines, and then we had to start it up again. So it's like anything in DC and anything legislative-wise, it's not necessarily a quick fix, but it's something that you're committed to, and it's something that you undertake and move forward with because it's for the benefit of the industry.
Absolutely.
And homeowners and our professionals.
Thank you so much for explaining that and kind of pulling the curtain back for how we got from point A, to point B. And that's, I think, very eye-opening for our listeners to see all the work that we're doing behind the scenes to take an idea and get it to completion. Amazing work. That's amazing stuff that we're doing.
Well, thank you. And it really, it's a team effort. This is not something that one person does or two people do. It really does take a village to do this when you look at all the different components and pieces that come into it. Yeah. And it's something that you really have to have a passion for. Yeah. And the legislative side and the regulation side of it is something that is really so pivotal to the industry, and it's pivotal that mortgage professionals get involved in that, because that's when you can start affecting change before the legislation changes and before it comes down. Usually what we've historically done in the industry is mortgage professionals will learn about it or see it happen when it's already passed, and then they'll get upset with it, or there'll be ramifications, or as we like to call it in DC, unintended consequences, right?
Right.
And then they're like, oh, how did that happen? Well, it's because they weren't proactive, and we as an industry at large, okay, weren't proactive enough on the front side when it really matters. So my passion and my commitment has really been to get more people involved at the earlier stages of it.
Yeah.
And to really take it up as become passionate about it. And, you know, our GA calls that we had this year, anybody who was a member of the association was welcome on the GA calls. And it was, I think, one of the most attended committee calls.
Very efficient, very effective.
Well, thank you.
Committee.
Yeah. So,
And for our listeners, if you want to get involved with the GA committee, please let us know. We're always looking to add extra voices and add extra people to what we're doing.
absolutely.
And Mike, President-elect Michael Farrell, thank you for being here as well.
Thank you, Matt.
And I know you've been working on a lot of things over the last year, especially membership. So I'd love to just kind of hear what you've been working on with membership over the last year.
You know, thank you. That's a great question. And what Lauren just said about, you know, it takes a village.
Yeah.
It takes, on the membership perspective, to identify where are our members, what states are involved, what associations are working in partnership, what state associations is working in partnership with us.
Yeah.
So when we look at the states, we wanted to build bridges back. We also
Right.
identified from a state perspective, COVID really rattled a lot of state associations.
Yeah.
And the administrative cost and just the economics of running an association, we wanted to build a bridge and let the associations lean in on NAMB's back office, since 1972.
Right.
You know, our infrastructure is poised to be able to support these states. And by supporting the states, we're also supporting GA. When we launched the Carolinas, the Carolina Association of Mortgage Professionals, and had a town hall meeting in Charlotte, we also needed help with one particular senator to get over the bridge on the triggers bill. Well, while we're there and doing the town hall meeting, the next day we went into the senator's office, and that day he signed on.
Wow.
As a co-signer. So it works in tangent that,
Yeah.
as Lauren said so well, you've got the GA committee, and
Right.
the states are encouraged to be on the GA committee. You also have the membership committee. Everybody's getting information, which is powerful, and then we work with these committees together for the top tasks that NAMB sets out to accomplish for that particular year.
Yeah.
Then again, triggers was our biggest priority, and it took a lot of effort and a lot of tenacity to get that over the finish line.
And we did.
We did.
And we did.
Yes, we did.
Thank you guys for your support and your hard work on that. That's such a big deal for our consumers. You know, our home buyers every day, they were being harassed, they were being called on, and it was rewarding for me as my little piece of the pie, you know, helping out. And just what I saw on TV when the bill got signed that day, just that sense of like, we did this as a group and a collective, and you know, everyone's volunteering their time and their effort, and it's just awesome to see all of that come together and get to the finish line.
And Matt, it was a broad reach at the audience of who we could bring in to help in this matter. And you did a wonderful job. In regards to membership, one of our priorities for the membership committee was we have to open the door and open the opportunity to the next generation of mortgage professionals.
Right.
And that's why we started the NAMYP.
Yep.
You've done a phenomenal job, and
you.
congratulations
Nice
on
job.
your award. Your
Thank you very
leadership
much.
award.
I'm very excited about that. Thank you.
But that helped raise and build 300% increase on membership in the last 24 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
The last 2
Yeah.
years,
Wow.
300% increase.
That is amazing.
Heck yeah.
Wow. I almost can't comprehend growing that many people that fast. You know, that's awesome.
You do it by, you know, how are the generations communicating? And it's text, it's mobile, creating the mobile app.
The mobile app's been huge for us.
The NAMB app is now over 4,300 users on that. The number one button that's used on that is the underwriting GPT.
Yeah.
You know, it's a daily task. Originators, the younger originators, looking up guidelines, looking up scenarios. You've got it right on your phone 24/7.
Yeah.
And it's a way for them to lean into NAMB,
Yeah.
get the resources that they want, and that's the key to our next year and our next decade is continuing to innovate
Right.
and identify ways that we can bring more back to our membership.
And we're really staying ahead of that technology curve and flowing with it, with AI, with the things that we're bringing in, the guideline GPT, and that's one I use every day. I literally use it every day on the app.
You will hear me say over and over, we are going to bring more to our membership, and you will find out what more is.
I can't wait to find out what more is. And Mike, I know we're doing so much on the state level right now. Anything for our listeners, if they want to get involved with the states, what's the best way to get more involved in their state association as well?
Number one, reach out directly to your state. I'm sure there's a website, but at the same point, go to NAMB's website and look at the state associations that we do have that are active. And if you find that your state's not active, I encourage you to give me a call. Shoot me an email. Contact Jeff Perry, our membership chair.
Yeah.
We are 20 minutes ago having conversations about 4 different new states coming online.
Wow.
And
Wow.
just because of this conference, talking to people and say, hey, Kansas City is one that's coming online that we're working on, and I think I've talked to at least 6 people that are interested in Kansas just from this weekend.
It's awesome.
They see the synergy, they feel what we're doing, they see all the camaraderie we have. And for me, when I got into NAMB, it was because of the state association. I started with OAMP, and that really opened the door for me to see what we're doing on such a macro level with NAMB. And I love, for me personally, getting involved with what we're doing in the state with education, with membership, and then how that carried over to membership on the national committee. And I just challenge our listeners, get involved. It is so rewarding. You'll make great connections, and just getting to know you guys even better from just kind of being in the trenches with you, and being a young guy, I felt like you guys were all so welcoming for me being a new person to NAMB, and I'm just so appreciative of that runway.
So you're saying I'm not a young professional anymore?
Well, I'm younger than both of you guys, so.
No, it is important, and it's important to get involved at the state level, and the state level is really, a lot of times we think in the industry that we can't make a change and that we can't make a difference, right? And that wheel and the cogs are just so big. You look at Utah this year, we were one of the first states, there were a couple other states on the East Coast, but the state level actually passed a trigger leads bill in Utah.
Okay.
And it was something that with our legislators there, and the Utah Association was pivotal on that one, and we worked with the Utah DRE as well. And so from the state level, they passed it this session. It didn't have the teeth that the national bill does, but it was a start. And people realize that this is something that is important.
Right.
And so it's nice to see originators getting involved at the state level and seeing that there's a collective, bigger, movement there.
We're a national association for a reason. We represent all
Everyone.
the states, and we need to hear from the states. What are their hot topics and their pain points? And like Lauren just said, bringing it all together collectively, we have a bigger voice. And that's exactly what we need when we go to Washington. When you're talking to legislators, they want to know, how big is your membership? How big is your audience? What is your reach?
Yeah.
That's a very important topic. And then, like I said, for Charlotte, you have one standout or holdout legislator. Mm-hmm. We have an opportunity to go into that state and go into that office and make a difference.
And the really cool thing about this last year was that you saw a number of organizations coming together to collectively work on some of these issues.
That's awesome.
And next year, if you look at the legislative calendar that's out there and some of the things that are on the horizon, it's not any lighter than it was this year. There's some really toothy legislation that could potentially be out there. LO Comp is something that's being talked about. This week they talked about the CFPB and that it potentially may not exist with the current administration. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of other things that are out there that if we as industry professionals, okay, and I mean right down to the grassroots where you're just newly licensed and this is your first year in, you have an opportunity to shape the industry and to really make constructive changes to protect the industry and those that we serve. Right. And that's something that again, that's my passion. I love the GA side of things.
You can see it too. You can see it. You can feel it.
I love the GA side of it. That's why I got involved in NAMB. That's why I got involved on the state level, because I was watching things happen and saying, if only more people had been involved back here in the first step, rather than getting involved or being upset on the last step. So that's something that's driven.
And one of the big pieces of GA is educating the legislators. They don't know our industry, but they're the policy holders. They're changing the decision makers. We have to educate not only our young membership, we have to educate our legislators.
That's a great point, and because we can't expect them to know what we're going through. We're the boots on the ground, and it's our job to relay that the best way we can to make the change.
You know, and it goes beyond. Lauren had mentioned other associations. You know, NAMB is not only a member of the Appraisal Foundation. NAMB now sits on the board of trustees. I just 3 days this week at their board of trustees meeting. But we are at the table because there's change happening to appraisals. UAD 3.6 is going to change our industry of how we look at appraisals, how risk is assessed,
right.
And how Fannie and Freddie are viewing those changes. So it's important that NAMB is in the forefront, at the table with the policyholders, with the decision makers.
Our voices being heard, and just amazing to see how, with what we just did to get the trigger leads bill passed, and to still have that same appetite, like you were saying, the things on our agenda, to still have the appetite to keep going after and pushing, our industry forward is so refreshing for me as a younger LO, kind of watching you guys, admiring the path you're laying for us. It's just really awesome to see people care about what we do on such a high level, and traveling and taking the time.
We're not laying the path for you, Matt. You're involved in the path. You're involved.
Right, for sure.
Compliments to you.
Thank you.
You look at NAMB YP, the young professionals. For the first time, we had a NAMB YP sit on the board, a nominating board.
Yeah,
that was an honor.
And you sat on that seat. So again, it's a matter of stepping forward, wanting to learn, wanting to become the expert in your field, in your trade, in your area, and it starts with your local association, and then it goes from there.
We heard Barry, who spoke today, that we all know and we all love, who's an icon in the industry, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't think about forecasts, you don't think about where the market's going without thinking Barry. And he was talking about the need for mortgage professionals to raise their standard, to raise their level.
Yeah.
And that's so true, You went to DC. I remember the first time you were there, you're like, wow, this is so cool. I would encourage everybody in the industry to at least one time make the trip to Washington, DC, go to a legislative conference. Yeah. The first time that you walk down the halls of Congress and the halls of the Senate buildings.
It is not your 8th grade field trip.
No.
No, it is not. No, it is definitely not that.
No,
that's
it's
for sure.
not. And I was lucky I got to bring my kids to it last year. And they got to sit in on some of the meetings that we had with our representatives and our senators, and it blew them away. They're like, wow, because we're taught it in school. Right. But to actually go and have an opportunity to sit there, and they're all just people,
just
when
like
you
us.
talk with their aides and their staff and their chief of staff and their policy directors, they're all just people, and they really, truly do want to make a difference, and they want to do good, but it's impossible for any of them to know everything about everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's when we as individuals in the profession come in and share with them what we know and explain to them, what the downsides are, what the upsides are, and what needs to be looked out for. And many times they'll say, well, I wasn't aware of that, or we didn't know about that. The conversation that I had a couple weeks ago with the VA committee in DC, and we were talking about, so for example, on a VA loan, just as an example, a veteran can't do a cash out refinance on a property that he owns free and clear.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. They didn't realize that per se, and so what a lot of veterans will do is they'll go take out a hard money loan or put some other loan on there that's much more expensive so that they can come in and use their benefit, right? And they're like, we had no idea that was what's happening. That was one of those things that legislation does. So it's important that we also educate and share the experiences that we know so that they can then go and draft legislation and be informed on what they're voting on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And to that point, we have the expertise in our VA committee that one person in particular, 25 years in VA guarantee, he was the author of the VA Modernization Act.
Yeah.
So we are working with VA directly on those changes, again, modernizing not only policy, but processes.
Yeah.
Amazing information today, guys.
You want to come on the GA committee?
I don't know. I'm on a lot of different committees right now. I don't know if I can. But thank you both so much for your time today. And for our listeners, if you want to get involved, whether it's membership, government affairs, if it's education, we would love to hear your voice. We'd love to have you. And Thank you so much, guys. And for our podcast, you can find us on Spotify, on Apple Music. We're the NAMB Podcast and also NAMBpodcast.com. And thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the NAMB Podcast, brought to you by the National Association of Mortgage Brokers. For more episodes, resources, and guest interviews, visit NAMBpodcast.com. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe.